talk about covering a war zone. You know, it can be complete with misery and chaos and all the other things that go with war. Add to that a government that may not even want you there, and, well, you know, you kind of get the picture of what's going to happen. Well, Sara Sidner and the crew recently covered the end of the civil war in Sri Lanka. Did a great job too. The pieces were terrific. But while she was there all the time, she was shooting material for Backstory too on the difficulties of covering something like this, and gives you a great glimpse into what they went through. Let's have a look at that.
Our frustration began at the airport. These are pictures of all of our television gear as it was being confiscated. Customs agents said they couldn't find the paperwork we had sent in weeks prior. So our first pictures from Sri Lanka were from inside the hotel room with my little handy cam. Our whole point of going to Sri Lanka was to tell the story of war from many different angles. But for 5 days, we were stuck in Colombo, getting only the government's perspective and the victory celebrations in the capital. What we didn't have was the war victims' perspective in the north, a perspective the government has not allowed many journalists to freely access. Then finally, a break. We were allowed to hitch a ride with the UN as the UN Secretary General came to Sri Lanka for a tour. This is the convoy that's going to the airport that will then take us to the north. We'll be flying into the north by chopper. It's like lots of checkpoints. We've been up since very early this morning. And away we go, door wide open, no seatbelts, and crammed in like sardines, but that doesn't mean we can rest. At the end of the long line of UN staff and journalists, I'm writing a blog on my BlackBerry and sending it back while we still have a signal. That is the Secretary General just landing now here in Sri Lanka. And we've already come in a chopper just before him. The security detail came along with us. And now we're waiting for him to get off, and we're going to follow him into the camp. So one of the frustrating things is that when you travel along with the Secretary General, or any VIP really, you're at the mercy of their schedule, and now they're telling us that we have to go into a press conference that none of us are all that interested in at this point in time. We want to get out to the camps and try to talk to the people, but we have to go by the rules. We are at the mercy of the authorities here, and so they're telling us we have to go into a conference room right now. But we don't want a chance to go inside. We'd like to take these pictures if that's possible.
No possible, madam. Yeah, not good this happened.
Finally, we were escorted into one of the camps where some of the 250,000 war victims now live. The first camp was obviously staged just for the UN Secretary General's arrival. So these are the children they have coming out in their white and blue uniforms, all waiting to show their Sri Lankan pride to the UN Secretary General as he comes along. Crush of media. All of us hoping to get to talk to the people who live in these camps. It wasn't easy. All right, so that was extremely frustrating. We're reaching across a barbed wire fence trying to speak with people in a huge group. We're being hurried along now to go and listen to what the UN Secretary General is saying. The Army is being, very pushy, making sure that we're moving along very quickly, and we've just had no time to talk to anyone. We finally got our chance here, 5 minutes in a makeshift camp hospital with a war survivor, and 5 minutes with a survivor holding a baby outside his tent. Both spoke of the terror they had experienced as they tried to survive being shelled. But the UN delegation had a tight schedule, and we were along for the ride, so we left without hearing their full stories. We got back on the helicopter with all of our heavy gear, feeling a bit like we'd failed. Back on the chopper, we took our final images from the north, shots of the devastation left behind on the final battlefields.
Yeah, really good stuff there. Now, if you want to learn more about Sara's experiences there, you can go to cnn.com/inthefield. She's been blogging there. And if you go to cnn.com/backstory, you'll actually see her piece, the story itself. That's cnn.com/backstory.